Thank you, friends. Greetings to you all. Shabbat Shalom. I hope you're all having a fantastic week. I hope you all had a great festival of weeks. And it was, of course, one of the 4 times of the year when there's a Yizkor, or public memorial service, a day to honor all, not just your personal family members who are gone. So if you did not get a chance, please light a candle for those who have come before and who are so deserving of memory. And it seems there's a lot of birthdays this time of the year. And I do want to mention that Harvey's getting ready to celebrate a birthday. And if there are names for numbers, then in this book of numbers, this would be his piano birthday. 88 keys for 88 years, and you know that don't come easy. I don't ask for much, I only want your trust, and you know it don't come easy. And this love of mine keeps growing all the time, and you know it just ain't easy. And speaking of birthdays, thanks to all of you who called or sent me notes wishing me a happy birthday. And I had a fantastic time up in the mountains, which I haven't seen in a long time. Colorado, Rocky Mountain High, I've seen it rain and fire in the sky. There's always been something magical about mountains for me. In fact, two of my favorite things allowed me to have an awesome celebration: mountains and thunderstorms. Perhaps it's why I like Thunder on the Mountain so much. Thunder on the mountain and there's fires on the moon. A ruckus in the alley and the sun will be here soon. An epiphany song, if ever there were, and perhaps it takes me back to another lifetime. It always reminds me of the Sinai announcement. I love standing looking at mountains whose summits are covered in cloud as thunder and lightning announce a celestial presence. And of course, we've been reading about a mountain covered in cloud with thunder and lightning exploding all around as a nation bears witness to God as he speaks to each person individually. And to this day, we relate to those lessons as individual lessons just for each of us alone. And in this parsha, we experience that again as the first real prayer in the Torah occurs in the second person singular, to each of us alone. Friends, in this parsha, we get to say goodbye to the census. And the parsha kind of ends on a 12 days of Christmas counting note. We see two of the most interesting rituals in the Torah talked about. And as I mentioned, the origin of a blessing continuing undisturbed to this day. Nasa, add up. Now, contained within the lists of numbers of things, we have the strange ritual for a woman suspected of adultery. We have the Nazarite vow, and we have the priestly blessing, the Birkat Kohanim. This parsha begins as so much of the Torah, especially as the books of instruction do. Vadeber Adonai al Moshe lemor. And God spoke to Moses, saying. And our first of the interesting events is in Numbers 5:12. Speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, any man whose wife will go astray, and will make a breach of faith with him. Now this is the infamous case of the Sotah, the wife who has gone astray. Now, it's acquired special importance because, first, it's regarded as the only case of trial by ordeal in the Torah. And second, because questions about the legal status of women now bring this whole section into question. This, my friends, is one of a few incidents which gave rise to its own Talmudic tractate, Sota, the strayed woman. Now, the woman in question must submit to this ordeal on the mere suspicion of her husband. And the question of the man suspected of adultery is not even raised in the legal system. Now, this ordeal, moreover, is based on a kind of archaic magic. However, one seeks to square it with loftier versions of monotheism, and that itself has become a real problem for many. What's most interesting is that it involves a woman whose husband suspects her of adultery, but who has not been proved guilty by either evidence or witnesses. And so with no concrete evidence of the sexual betrayal, with no more than his suspicions to go on, the husband is overcome, like Othello, by a fit of jealousy, and has recourse to a trial by ordeal. The woman is made to drink a mixture of holy water, dust from the tabernacle's floor, and ink from a document expressing a curse if she is guilty. This, my friends, is the first and only use of the term holy water in the Torah, an item still found in every Catholic church that you may enter. And the purpose of drinking the mixture is not to prove her guilt, but simply to bring about the curse. It is called the bitter cursing water. Me hamarim hama arim. And in what appears to be an incredibly chauvinistic approach, there is no corresponding treatment for a husband accused of going astray. Where he's mentioned in this parsha is only to state that the man shall be clear of a crime, and this is usually understood to mean that the husband is innocent of the crime of making a false charge against his wife. Now, there are many Talmudic attempts at explanation, but there are deeper questions involved. Why not have some procedure like this for a man who's suspected of adultery? In fact, why not have a procedure like this for any other crime by a man or a woman? Also, even if the woman is shown guilty, she's not executed, which elsewhere is the penalty for adultery, as we saw in Leviticus 20:10 and as we will see in Deuteronomy 22:22. This stands alone. So to begin with, this procedure must relate specifically to something about women and not men, and about sex and adultery. And the reason we've had such difficulty understanding this case for millennia is that law is constructed on equivalence. We decide cases by precedents, by consistent principles that apply to cases in a variety of circumstances. Pregnancy is a condition that is without parallel in human experience. The rabbis of the Talmudic era were so unclear about the actual procedures here because it probably had not been practiced since First Temple times. At the latest, it required dust from the tabernacle floor, and the tabernacle was only in the First Temple, never in the second. Now, while this has always been a strange ritual to understand, we are then immediately presented with another. We then see the second ritual contained in this parsha, which I want to mention. In Numbers 6:1. And God spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, when a man or a woman will expressly make a Nazirite vow to make a separation for the Lord, a man or a woman." Now, although the rest of the law is stated in the masculine, the entire matter of choosing to be a Nazirite applies equally to both men and women. For a religion so often accused of being male-oriented, the right to be a Nazirite is sexually unrestricted. So what is a Nazirite? A Nazirite is separate, and we'll talk about the separate in a minute. The Nazirite vows to give up certain things and to live in a special state of holiness. Now, there's a general idea in the Torah that all the people are holy. We're told in Leviticus 19:1 that we're all holy. But the Nazirite vow refers to a singular state that exceeds that. The Nazirite gives up three things: consuming alcohol, coming near to dead persons, and cutting his or her hair. Why these three things? These three things are related to priesthood, and particularly to the high priest. Two of the things are the same for the high priest, and one is different in the matter of the hair. The high priest is commanded to do the opposite of the Nazirite. The Nazirite shall grow the hair of his head loose, as we're told in Numbers 6:5, but the high priest shall not let loose the hair of his head. Leviticus 21:10. What does it mean that a Nazirite is someone who chooses to live like a high priest? But that a high priest is commanded not to have the most obvious characteristic of the Nazirite. It's to show that the distinction, the separation between them. Friends, the clergy in Israel is not open to most Israelites to choose, but only to members of the tribe of Levi by heredity. And then only to males. And the priesthood comes to be limited only to a certain family within Levi, the family of Aaron. And the high priesthood is limited to a son of the preceding high priest. Now, prophets can be from any tribe and can be male or female. And one becomes a prophet by being called by God. But one becomes a high priest solely by birth. Now, post-biblically, rabbis replace priests as the primary clergy of the Jews, and membership in the rabbinate is open to anyone who chooses it and proves capable of qualifying and carrying it out. Originally, it was limited to males. But in the present generation, Reformed, conservative, and Reconstructionist movements have included both females and males. So what does a person in the biblical world who's drawn to the holy life of a priest but who is not a male Levite from the family of Aaron do? Well, Such a person can choose to be a Nazarite. A Nazir, or Nazarite, is someone set apart, which we first saw during Jacob's blessing in Genesis 49:26 in his reference to Joseph, the one set apart from his brothers. Nazir E'ah. Now, probably the most famous Nazarite in the Tanakh, and it wasn't somebody who chose to be Nazarite, but it was pledged as a Nazarite by his parents, actually, was Samson, who could not cut his hair. And probably the most famous Nazarite in history is Jesus, who, being from Bethlehem, would not have been Jesus of Nazareth, but could very well have been Jesus the Nazarite. And if the only difference between the high priest and the Nazarite is the sign of hair, and if the Joshua ben Miriam legend and timing is historically correct, is it any wonder that Caiaphas as the high priest, felt threatened by another high priest who had a differing mosaic hair, a Nazarite, someone set apart. And certainly Jesus would fit that description. And perhaps the song that should have been sung was really, what then to do about Jesus the Nazarite? How do we deal with the carpenter king? And friends, the root for the word for Nazarite, for vow, and for a king's crown all stem from the same, Nazir, which in the case of Jesus may explain why he was perceived as a king. Now, the Nazarite, while open to all, was a possible threat to the establishment, and so we do come across very few of them. And then before the end of this parsha, with its 12 days of Christmas list, we see the first example of real prayer in the Torah. The Torah does not give us a lot of actual prayers, and so this is one of the very few of them. Number 623, speak to Aaron and to his sons, saying, and so this is specific. This is specifically, for Aaron and his sons, saying, this is how you shall bless the children of Israel. Say to them, this is how you shall bless. A new form of expression that enters biblical narrative in the book of Numbers is prayer. In earlier books, there were depictions of individuals in prayer, but Numbers includes a formal prayer, commanded to be said verbatim by the priests, Aaron and his sons. And it is known as the priestly benediction and can be found in Numbers 6:22-27. This blessing has been pronounced upon the congregation by those of priestly descent, presumably from the biblical period until the present day. It is 3 clauses embodying a rising crescendo of 3, 5, and 7 words, respectively coordinated with the number of stressed syllables, also of 3, 5, and 7. May the Lord bless you and guard you. May the Lord light up his face to you and grant grace to you. May the Lord lift up his face to you and give you peace. And what do you notice? May God bless you and watch over you. You, the language of the priestly benediction, like the Decalogue, is formulated in the second person singular. All of the priests are instructed to bless the entire people with it. And although it historically has been pronounced as a congregational blessing, it is both personal and a communal wish. In these 3 brief lines, the priests wish each individual divine blessing, protection, favor, grace, attention, and peace. And it's the priestly blessing I always think of when I hear Bob Dylan's second person blessing. May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. Now, the world is sacred, so is everything in it, my friends. Express your gratitude. Light a candle, make a wish. Celebrate your life and the lives of those you love. Live free, be free. Honor your freedom. Be well, be happy, be blessed. Share and honor the light and all who live in the light and continue to shine. Continue to send everyone you know goodwill and love. Pray for peace and freedom for everyone, and end to terror and hatred. And remember, friends, we are a community. We learn together, we celebrate each other, we love each other. Thank you all. Love you. See you all next time. Thank you for joining me. Wishes do come true. May you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every rung. May you stay forever young. Bless you all. Shabbat shalom. Take care. Thanks.